Good afternoon, my YouTube viewers. It is Palestine here. I just felt that I had to make another video because I was just looking on YouTube on my tablet, and the article or the video that is playing is Investigation into China's Use of Psychiatric Hospitals. And the investigation is being conducted by the BBC. I felt that I needed to make a video on this because that's what happened to me. I mean, I've been traumatized, and to add insult to injury, I'm being told that I'm mentally ill. And I've been in a UK psychiatric hospital twice. The first time when I was mobbed out of my job at a very well-known project management company in the oil and gas industry. And I wrote a lot of letters to people, and nobody would help me. In fact, in desperation, I wrote a letter to David Cameron, and when I wrote that letter to David Cameron, that's when I got sectioned. And the second time I was in a hospital was my flat was being vandalized. And again, the police wouldn't do anything about it. And not only that, I was very traumatized, and I didn't feel that I could trust anybody. And I felt that I was being harassed by other people as well. But it is a fact that my flat was being vandalized. That's a fact. The police wouldn't investigate. I also would like to say that the guy that lived right next to me died. He died in around 2012, and the cause of death was inconclusive, so they never even got down to the cause of death yet. And the reason why I know that is because somebody emailed me the newspaper article about his death, and the cause of death was inconclusive. They never found out what he died from. And so, because of all of these factors, with my flat being vandalized and me being followed around on the streets and harassed, I felt very ill at ease where I was living. And I can't move because I haven't got the money to move. So I just stay here. And I will be making videos about exactly what happened with this company and also with my apartment. But I had to be careful not to name anybody, because if I name anybody, then I can get kicked off YouTube. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to get kicked off YouTube. I want to keep telling my story because somebody might actually be interested in listening to my story, listening to what I have to say. So the medical professionals in the UK haven't listened to me, and nobody would help me. I wrote copious letters underneath my bed. I've got like 2 cardboard boxes full of documents of letters that I have written to try to seek a resolution, and I never got a resolution. So I think rather than the BBC investigating China for illegally putting people in psychiatric hospitals, they need to be investigating their own country. And the reason why is because the first time I got put in a psychiatric hospital, I had written a letter to David Cameron. That's all I did, was I wrote a letter to David Cameron, and they sectioned me for that. And then they gave me a diagnosis. And then the second time my flat was being vandalized, the police wouldn't investigate. I made a complaint against the police. The police refused to investigate themselves. They even wrote me a letter and said that they were not going to respond to any more of my correspondence, that if I wrote them, that they were just going to file it away and not read it and not act on it. the reason why the police are allowed to do that is because in the UK, if you've been given a diagnosis of a mental illness, the police do not have to respond to you. And so that's why they were able to get away with not responding to me, and they were able to get away with not helping me. And I also wrote letters to organizations in the US asking for help, and they just ignored me as well. I was just completely 100% ignored, except for being sectioned, not once but twice. So I don't feel that I was legally sectioned. And then, like, my boyfriend, the second time I was sectioned, my boyfriend made a complaint to Care Quality Commission, or somebody made a complaint to somebody about the fact that I was being unlawfully detained. Nothing came of it. Nothing. All the complaints we made, nothing came of it. I appealed me being sectioned. They still upheld my section. And finally, after 2 months, they finally let me out the second time. The first time I was in the hospital about a month. The second time I was in the hospital about 2 months. And so these people in China who were detained under the Chinese Mental Health Act, because one of them protested getting a COVID vaccine, which is understandable. And then another one, what he did was he was holding a placard or something for some political candidate that he liked, and he got sectioned for that, just holding the placard. So the first one that got sectioned for protesting COVID vaccines, he has fled to, I think, New Zealand, and they kept him in the hospital for 2 weeks, made him take psychiatric drugs, and gave him a diagnosis of schizophrenia just because he objected to getting a COVID vaccine. And he says now that he wished that he hadn't done it, that he would not have gone to the rally if he had known that he was going to get sectioned. But that's exactly the kind of thing that they're doing in the UK. In the UK, they sectioned me twice, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. First time I wrote a letter to David Cameron. The second time I hadn't done anything wrong, and I still got sectioned. And I will be making videos about why that happened. And yeah, I think BBC needs to be investigating themselves. And in addition to the fact that in the UK, and not only will they put you in a psychiatric hospital, they'll also put you in prison. Like if you make a tweet or a Facebook post that somebody doesn't like, you can get arrested for that. If you go to a protest, you can get arrested for that. So yeah, UK is doing the same thing that China is doing. So I think China needs to be investigating the UK, especially with regard to putting people in mental hospitals. I think in my case that I was put in a mental hospital to be silenced, because nobody will listen to you. That's what they said in China. They said that, they can get in, once you get a diagnosis of a mental illness, that's it, that's it, and nobody will listen to you once you get a diagnosis of a mental illness. And I know someone who has the same diagnosis that I have, and you can look at her and you can tell that she really does have that diagnosis, or she really does have a problem. But I don't have those kind of problems, and I was just traumatized, and I was trying to get people to listen to me and people to do something to help me, which of course they wouldn't. And so now I'm labeled with this mental illness, and even members of my own family talk about me being mentally ill, and members of my own family don't support me. And I will be making videos about that as well. But even though this video isn't about my early life, I just felt that because the BBC is investigating mental hospitals in China, I felt that I needed to make a video on this very serious matter. And because the UK does the same thing. The UK puts people, if they can't put you in prison, if you haven't done anything wrong and they can't put you in prison, they'll put you in a mental hospital to silence you, which is what they did to me. So thank you so much for watching my video. If you like my video, please like and subscribe, and I will be making some more videos for you in the very near future.